Have you ever noticed how some people can walk into a room and instantly command attention without saying much at all? They don't dominate conversations, they don't rush to fill silences, and yet, when they finally speak, their words land with undeniable weight. Now, contrast that with the noise of everyday life. Social media, news, conversations. Everyone seems to be talking, yet few are truly listening. Words are thrown around carelessly, opinions are broadcast without thought, and in the end, much is said, but little is understood. This is the paradox of communication. The more we speak, the less impact we seem to have. The Stoics understood this long before the digital age. They believed that words, like actions, should be deliberate, never wasted, never reckless. Every sentence should serve a purpose, just like a sculptor removes the unnecessary stone to reveal a masterpiece beneath. So what happens when we apply this wisdom to our own speech? Imagine making an impact not by speaking more, but by speaking better. Imagine a presence so strong that people listen, not because you demand attention, but because your words carry meaning. This is the power of saying less. It's not about silence for the sake of it. It's about restraint, control, choosing words so carefully that they don't just fill space, they change the atmosphere. The greatest thinkers, leaders, and influencers throughout history have understood this secret. Real power isn't found in the volume of words, but in their precision. So how do we cut through the noise? How do we master the art of speaking with intention, making every word count? That's what we're about to explore. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Chapter 1. The Science of Silence. In a world that never stops talking, silence is often misunderstood. Many see it as awkward, empty, or even a sign of weakness. But those who truly understand its power know that silence is not an absence. It is a presence, a force that, when used with intention, can command attention, shift dynamics, and create an impact that words alone cannot. We live in a time where constant noise fills every gap. Conversations are rushed, debates are loud, and opinions are thrown into the air without much thought. People speak not to communicate, but to be heard, often mistaking volume for influence. But if talking more truly led to greater understanding, why do so many voices go ignored? Why do the wisest, most respected individuals often speak the least? Silence has a way of making people listen. Think of the rare moments when a crowded room falls completely still. That quiet carries weight. It shifts focus. It builds anticipation. The most skilled speakers use this to their advantage. They don't rush to fill every moment with words. Instead, they let silence settle, allowing their message to land with greater force. A well-placed pause can be more powerful than 1,000 rushed words. Beyond speech, silence influences perception. Someone who speaks constantly without restraint can come across as desperate to be heard. But someone who chooses their words carefully, who embraces pauses instead of fearing them, projects confidence and control. They don't need to convince you of their importance. Their presence alone does that. The Stoics understood this well. To them, restraint in speech was a sign of wisdom. Words, like actions, should be measured, intentional, and never wasted. Marcus Aurelius himself practiced this discipline, knowing that speaking impulsively often led to regret, while deliberate speech had the power to inspire, teach, and lead. This principle extends beyond philosophy. It shapes the way people interact every day. In business, the most influential leaders are not the ones who talk the most, but the ones who listen, absorb, and then speak with clarity. In negotiations, silence is a tool that unsettles the impatient, giving power to the one who can remain still. Even in personal relationships, those who know when to hold their tongue and when to speak create deeper, more meaningful connections. But silence is not just external, it is also internal. In a world of endless distractions, the ability to sit in silence, to think without external noise, is becoming rare. Yet it is in those quiet moments that clarity emerges, that wisdom is strengthened. When you allow yourself space to think before you speak, your words carry more weight. When you resist the urge to fill every pause, you give meaning to what you do say. The ability to embrace silence is not about speaking less. It's about speaking better. It's about knowing when words add value and when they dilute it. It's about mastering the discipline of restraint, so that when you do choose to speak, people stop and listen. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Chapter 2. Speaking with Precision. In a world that rewards those who speak the loudest, few realize that true power lies in precision. Many people mistake talking more for communicating better, believing that endless explanations make them sound intelligent, that filling every silence with words proves their presence. But the opposite is true. The more you say, the less impact each word has. The Stoics understood this well. They believed that speech, like action, should never be careless. Every word should serve a purpose, carrying weight rather than filling space. Just as a sculptor does not create by adding clay, but by chiseling away the excess, great speakers refine their words, stripping them down to their essence. They remove what is unnecessary so that what remains is strong, clear, and unforgettable. But in today's world, excess is everywhere. We are surrounded by noise, endless opinions, explanations, and justifications. People over-explain out of fear of being misunderstood, fear of not sounding knowledgeable, fear of silence itself. But in trying to say everything, they end up saying nothing at all. Their message gets lost in a flood of unnecessary words, their presence drowned out by their own voice. Think of the moments when someone speaks with absolute clarity, when their words are so sharp and deliberate that they cut through all distractions. A single well-placed sentence can shift a conversation, reshape an argument, or inspire action. Not because it was long, but because it was precise. The strongest communicators don't use 10 words when 5 will do. They don't repeat themselves out of insecurity. They trust in the power of their message and let it stand on its own. This is why great leaders, thinkers, and negotiators speak the way they do. They get to the point. They eliminate fluff. They leave no room for misinterpretation. Their words are direct, intentional, and impossible to ignore. Precision in speech is not just about efficiency, it's about impact. When you remove the clutter from your words, what remains is authority. When you stop speaking just to be heard and start speaking to be understood, people listen differently. Your voice becomes stronger, not because it is louder, but because it is necessary. So before you speak, ask yourself, is this essential? Am I adding value, or am I just filling space? Because in the end, the ones who say the most are rarely the ones who talk the most. They are the ones who understand that fewer words, spoken with purpose, will always carry the greatest weight. Chapter 3. The Power of Pauses. Words shape the world, but silence gives them meaning. In every great speech, conversation, or negotiation, it's not just the words that matter, it's the pauses between them. Yet in daily life, most people fear silence. They rush to fill every gap, believing that constant speech keeps attention. But those who truly understand communication know that a well-placed pause can be more powerful than 1,000 words. Pauses create impact. When someone speaks without stopping, their words blur together, losing weight. But when they pause, the listener leans in. The silence forces them to absorb what was just said, to anticipate what's coming next. This is why the most skilled public speakers and leaders use pauses deliberately. They understand that silence isn't empty, it's a tool. A pause can also change the tone of a conversation. In moments of tension, when emotions run high, people often respond too quickly, saying things they later regret. But a pause, just a brief moment of restraint, creates space to think, to choose words wisely instead of reacting impulsively. A well-timed silence can diffuse conflict, make a statement feel more profound, or signal confidence without a single extra word. Think about the best storytellers. They don't just rush through their words, they let them breathe. The greatest speeches in history are filled with moments of silence, allowing each statement to land with full force. In contrast, those who ramble or rush through their thoughts struggle to hold attention. It's not because they lack good ideas. It's because they don't give their words room to be felt. Mastering the pause is about discipline. It requires comfort with silence, resisting the instinct to fill every gap with unnecessary words. But when you learn to embrace pauses, you gain an entirely new level of control over how people hear and remember your words. Silence is not a void, it's a tool of influence. Those who use it well don't just speak, they make people listen. Chapter 4. Listening to speak better. Most people believe that great communication is about speaking well, but the truth is, the most powerful communicators are not those who talk the most, they are those who listen the best. In conversations, debates, and even negotiations, the ability to listen deeply is what separates those who simply react from those who respond with wisdom and precision. Listening is not just waiting for your turn to talk. It is an active process, a skill that requires presence and patience. Yet in today's world, most conversations are filled with interruptions, half-hearted nods, and people formulating their next sentence instead of absorbing what is being said. The result? Superficial discussions where no one truly feels heard. But when someone listens with full attention, the dynamic changes. The speaker feels valued, the conversation deepens, and a connection is formed. True listening also gives you an advantage. When you focus on the other person's words, not just the words themselves, but their tone, pauses, and body language, you gain insight. You begin to understand what they truly mean, beyond what they are saying. A skilled negotiator, for example, listens more than they speak. They know that by letting the other person talk, they reveal more: fears, uncertainties, desires, all of which can be used to craft a more precise and impactful response. The Stoics understood this well. They believed that speech should be measured, that wisdom comes from observing and understanding before offering words. Epictetus, a former slave who became a great philosopher, taught that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, to listen twice as much as we speak. When you listen first, you speak better. Your words become more relevant, your responses more thoughtful, and your influence stronger. The loudest voices are not always the most powerful. Those who listen carefully before they speak often command far more respect. Because in the end, people don't just want to hear you, they want to feel understood. Chapter 5. The weight of every word. Words are not just sounds. They shape perceptions, influence emotions, and leave lasting impressions. A single sentence can inspire action, mend a relationship, or destroy trust. Yet, in a world where people speak without thinking, words are often used carelessly, thrown into the air without regard for their impact. The difference between those who are heard and those who are ignored lies in understanding the true weight of every word. The Stoics believed that speech should be as deliberate as action. Just as one should not act recklessly, one should not speak without thought. Every word should serve a purpose, either to inform, to uplift, or to clarify. When words are spoken merely to fill silence or to prove knowledge, they lose their meaning. Speech should be a sharpened tool, not a blunt instrument swung without direction. Many people underestimate the power of restraint in speech. They believe that saying more makes their message clearer, when in reality, excess words dilute it. Over-explaining can make a speaker seem uncertain, just as unnecessary apologies or hedging phrases weaken authority. Instead of saying, "I kind of think this might be a good idea," say, "This is a good idea." Strength lies in clarity. The more precise your words, the more confident they sound. But speech is not just about the words themselves. It is about how they are spoken. The same sentence can carry different meanings depending on tone, delivery, and context. A well-placed pause can add gravity to a statement. A calm, measured voice can command more respect than a loud, frantic one. The best communicators understand that the way something is said is just as important as what is being said. Before speaking, consider, is this necessary? Does this align with my values? Will this build or break? The words you choose reflect who you are, and once spoken, they cannot be taken back. Mastering the weight of every word is not just about speaking wisely. It is about ensuring that when you do speak, your voice carries meaning beyond the sound itself. Chapter 6. The Power of Presence. Words alone do not make an impact. Presence does. The way you carry yourself, the pauses you take, and the tone you use often speak louder than the words themselves. A person who walks into a room with quiet confidence, who listens intently, and who speaks only when necessary commands far more respect than someone who fills every silence with noise. The Stoics understood that true influence comes not from excessive speech, but from composure. They believed that the way a person moves, the steadiness of their gaze, and even their stillness can communicate strength without a single word. A leader does not need to shout to be heard. They need only to embody certainty. The less frantic their movements, the more grounded their presence, the more others will instinctively follow their lead. Body language is a language of its own. Crossed arms can signal defensiveness, while an open stance projects confidence. A steady gaze conveys attentiveness, while a restless gaze suggests insecurity. Even something as simple as posture, standing tall rather than slouching, can change the way people perceive you. The greatest communicators do not just think about what they say, they think about how they exist in the space around them. Silence, when paired with presence, becomes a powerful tool. The ability to remain still, to hold a moment without rushing to fill it, creates anticipation. It signals authority. It forces others to lean in rather than tune out. The best speakers do not just use words, they use pauses, eye contact, and deliberate movements to make their message unforgettable. Mastering presence means mastering control of your words, your movements, and your energy. When your body aligns with your message, people don't just hear you, they feel you, and in the end, it is not the loudest person in the room who commands attention, but the one who speaks with confidence, moves with purpose, and lets their presence do most of the talking. Chapter 7. The Art of Asking the Right Questions. True influence is not always about having the right answers. It is about asking the right questions. The best communicators are not those who speak the most, but those who guide conversations with curiosity and precision. They do not seek to dominate discussions. They seek to understand, to uncover, to make others think. Most people talk to be heard, waiting impatiently for their turn to speak. But those who master the art of questioning shift the focus. They make others feel valued, drawing out deeper insights and emotions that might have otherwise remained unspoken. A well-placed question can unlock hidden perspectives, break down walls, and turn a surface-level exchange into a meaningful dialogue. The Stoics understood this well. They believed that wisdom begins with curiosity, that asking rather than assuming leads to greater clarity. Instead of rushing to state an opinion, they would inquire, "What do you mean by that? Why do you believe this to be true?" These questions were not meant to challenge, but to refine, both their own thinking and that of others. A great leader does not just issue commands. They ask questions that empower others to think critically. A great negotiator does not just make demands. They ask questions that reveal the other person's true motivations. A great conversationalist does not just tell stories. They ask questions that invite others to share their own. Questions are more than just a tool for gathering information. They are a means of connection, of persuasion, of influence. They turn conversations into explorations rather than competitions. The more you ask, the more you learn, and the more you learn, the more powerful your words become when you finally choose to speak. Chapter 8. The Strength of Restraint. In a world that rewards quick reactions and constant opinions, restraint is an underrated skill. Many believe that speaking first, speaking often, and speaking loudly establishes dominance. But true strength lies not in saying more, but in knowing when to hold back. The ability to resist the urge to speak impulsively, to let words settle before responding, is a sign of discipline and confidence. Restraint in speech creates space for thought. Those who pause before speaking do not just react, they consider. They choose their words with care, ensuring that what they say adds value rather than simply filling silence. This is why the most respected individuals are often those who speak the least. When they do speak, people listen because they know it will be worth hearing. The Stoics believed that restraint was essential to wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we should be wary of speaking too quickly, as words spoken without thought can lead to regret. Seneca advised that the best way to avoid unnecessary conflict is to not engage in it. Resisting the need to respond immediately gives you control over your own emotions, preventing anger or ego from dictating your words. Beyond personal discipline, restraint is also a tool of influence. In negotiations, the person who speaks less often holds more power. The one who can remain silent after making a statement forces the other person to fill the void, often revealing more than they intended. In debates, the individual who speaks calmly and deliberately appears more in control than the one who reacts with urgency. Even in casual conversations, restraint creates an air of mystery. People are drawn to those who do not reveal everything at once. Not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every silence needs to be filled. Those who master restraint understand that words, when used sparingly and with precision, hold far more power than those spoken without care. Strength is not in how much you say, but in how deliberately you choose to say it. Chapter 9. Silence in Leadership. Leadership is often associated with strong speeches, bold declarations, and decisive words. But the most effective leaders understand that true authority is not just about what they say. It is also about what they choose not to say. The ability to remain silent, to listen before responding, and to let moments breathe is one of the most powerful tools in leadership. A leader who speaks too often risks weakening their own voice. If every moment is filled with instructions, explanations, and reassurances, their words lose impact. But a leader who speaks with intention, who pauses before responding, who lets their silence command respect, creates an aura of wisdom and confidence. People trust those who do not rush to speak because they know that when they do, it is worth listening to. Silence also plays a crucial role in decision-making. Many leaders feel pressure to provide immediate answers, believing that speed signals competence. But hasty words often lead to poor choices. The most respected leaders do not react impulsively. They take their time. They listen to different perspectives, weigh the options, and only then do they speak. A pause before answering signals thoughtfulness, making those around them feel that their words have been considered rather than dismissed. In moments of crisis, silence becomes a stabilizing force. When emotions run high and people seek direction, a leader who remains calm and composed, who does not rush to fill the air with unnecessary reassurances, projects strength. Their very presence, steady and deliberate, brings order to chaos. Beyond decision-making, silence in leadership fosters trust. Leaders who dominate conversations, who interrupt or always have the last word, create environments where others hesitate to speak. But leaders who listen, who make space for others to contribute, empower their teams. They signal that every voice matters, not just their own. And in doing so, they cultivate a culture where people think more critically, communicate more openly, and take greater ownership of their work. Great leaders do not need to raise their voices to assert authority. They do not need to speak constantly to prove their intelligence. They understand that silence, when used with purpose, commands more respect than any shouted command ever could. Chapter 10. The Power of Saying Less Online. The digital world thrives on constant engagement. Social media, instant messaging, emails. Every platform encourages people to speak, to react, to comment. The expectation is to always be available, always responding, always adding to the conversation. But in this endless stream of words, few realize that saying less online can be far more powerful than trying to keep up with the noise. Every day, people post impulsively, reply without thinking, and argue over things that will be forgotten in hours. The urge to respond immediately, to defend, to correct, to prove a point, can be overwhelming. But just as in real-life conversations, restraint in digital communication commands respect. Not every message needs a reply. Not every argument needs participation. Those who master the ability to pause before they type, to reflect before they post, project more confidence and control than those who engage without thought. Silence online is not about disappearing. It is about choosing when to speak. Instead of constantly posting to stay visible, those who speak less but with more meaning stand out. Their words are not lost in the noise because they are rare, deliberate, and worth reading. In contrast, those who flood their feeds with opinions on everything often find their voice losing credibility. When everything is commented on, nothing carries weight. Beyond influence, digital silence is also a form of self-discipline. The internet rewards quick reactions, but it also records them permanently. A single reckless comment can damage reputations, while a moment of restraint can prevent unnecessary conflict. In a world where misunderstandings spread quickly, choosing not to engage in pointless debates is often the wisest decision. Silence also protects mental clarity. The more we engage in the endless back and forth of online conversations, the more our focus is scattered. Taking a step back, resisting the urge to react instantly, allows for better thinking and more intentional communication. Those who understand this use social media as a tool, not as a distraction. They know that in a world of constant talking, the most impactful voices are not the ones who speak the most, but the ones who speak with purpose. Chapter 11. The silence between words. People often focus on what is said in a conversation, but just as important is what is left unsaid. The pauses between words, the moments of stillness, the space between thoughts, these hold a power that most overlook. Silence is not an absence, it is a presence. It gives words time to breathe, meaning time to settle, and conversations a rhythm that keeps people engaged. A well-placed pause can make a statement more powerful than if it had been spoken without interruption. Think of a great speaker. It's not just their words that captivate, it's the moments they let those words hang in the air, allowing the listener to absorb them fully. A pause before a critical point builds anticipation. A pause after a statement reinforces its weight. Silence, when used with intention, draws people in rather than pushing them away. In tense situations, silence can also act as a shield. When emotions run high, people often feel the need to respond instantly, to defend themselves, to correct, to argue. But a moment of silence before responding gives space for emotions to settle, for logic to regain control. Many conflicts escalate simply because words were spoken too quickly, without thought. A pause allows for clarity, for a shift in tone, for a response that de-escalates rather than inflames. Beyond conversations, silence is also a tool of authority. In a negotiation, for example, the person who can sit in silence after making an offer often holds the upper hand. The other party, uncomfortable with the pause, will feel pressured to speak first, often revealing more than they intended. In a debate, the person who remains composed and silent while the other speaks appears more in control. The ability to sit comfortably in silence is a mark of confidence, a quiet strength that unsettles those who rely on noise. Most people rush to fill silence out of discomfort, but those who master the silence between words understand its value. They know that the absence of speech does not mean the absence of meaning. It means presence, it means patience, and it means power. Chapter 12. Speaking with purpose. In a world overflowing with noise, those who speak with purpose stand apart. Most people talk out of habit, filling the air with words simply because silence makes them uncomfortable. But the most powerful communicators do not speak to fill space. They speak to express something meaningful. They choose their words carefully, ensuring that every sentence serves a purpose. Purposeful speech is intentional. It is not about impressing others or proving intelligence. It is about clarity, honesty, and impact. Those who speak with purpose understand that words should either inform, inspire, or guide, never just exist for the sake of being heard. Before speaking, they ask themselves, is this necessary? Is this true? Is this helpful? If the answer is no, they remain silent. This kind of discipline in speech builds trust. People respect those who do not waste words, who speak only when they have something valuable to say. A leader who speaks with purpose commands more respect than one who constantly talks. A friend who chooses their words wisely is listened to more than one who speaks without thought. The weight of one's voice is not measured by how often it is used, but by how well it is used. Speaking with purpose also brings a sense of confidence. Many people over-explain because they fear their message is not strong enough on its own. But true confidence comes from knowing that what you say is enough. The greatest communicators are those who trust in the power of their words and do not feel the need to dress them up with unnecessary details. More than just a skill, speaking with purpose is a mindset. It is a way of approaching conversations, decisions, and interactions with thoughtfulness. It is knowing that the words you choose reflect who you are, that they shape how others perceive you, and that once spoken, they cannot be taken back. Mastering this art means embracing restraint, clarity, and honesty, so that when you do speak, your words truly matter.